My parents did an incredible job of helping me build healthy associations with money. It wasn't just about learning numbers, it was about understanding how balance and intentionality shaped our financial lives. Those early lessons set me up for success and helped me navigate the real world with more confidence when it came to money. And it's a big reason why I'm so excited to share today's sponsor with you, Acorns Early. Acorns Early is a smart money app and a debit card for kids that helps them learn the value of money. Kids can spend what they earn with their very own debit card. They'll love the new sense of independence and getting to choose from 35 plus customizable card designs. Plus, parents can keep track of where and when their kids are spending. You can get real-time spend notifications, set your kids' spending limits, and instantly block lost or stolen cards. They might not realize it now, but starting to invest early is going to have a huge impact on their financial future. And the best part? It's simple. And Acorns Early is such a smart, accessible tool to do that. If you're looking for a way to make a real difference in the financial future of the younger people in your life, Acorns Early is an amazing place to start. Ready to help your kids learn the value of money? Just head to acornsearly.com/diaries or download the Acorns Early app to get started. Sign up now and your first month is on us. T&Cs apply. Monthly subscription fee starting from $5 per month unless canceled.
Hello, Nigel here. I couldn't help noticing that you're still awake. Now, I'm an owl. I'm supposed to be up at night, but you need your sleep. So if it's your allergy symptoms that are keeping you up, here's a word to the wise. Try Xyzal. You see, Xyzal works fast to relieve sneezing, runny nose, itchy watery eyes, and itchy nose and throat. And it keeps going strong for 24 hours, so you can get your sleep and wake up refreshed and ready for a productive day ahead. Be wise, all. Take Xyzal at night. Use as directed. Starts working in 45 minutes.
This episode is brought to you by Loom by Atlassian. Are you feeling stuck at work? Get your team unstuck with Loom video messaging and move work forward. Use Loom to simultaneously record both your screen and yourself to share a quick update, provide feedback, train a colleague, and everything in between. Plus, add Loom AI to your meetings for instant written notes and recordings. Try Loom today at Loom.com. That's LOOM.com.
Welcome back to another episode of Unscripted. We're doing something a little bit different today, and I think it's going to be so fun. We are uncovering some really unique stories that people have posted online asking whether or not they're the asshole in certain situations. I'm Natalie.
And I'm Paige. I'm so excited for this episode because I feel like I am constantly seeing clips of somebody going over an "Am I the asshole" story, or seeing a clip online of like another creator talking about one of these stories. And they really bring up a lot of different thoughts. And what's most interesting is on Reddit, you can actually vote on these, whether or not you think the person's the asshole or not. And then once voting closes, it says on the top whether or not the person is. So I found that interesting because I actually didn't know that until I was going through them to pick some for today.
And I feel like a lot of these stories, while some of them can be outlandish, are somewhat relatable. We've all wondered whether or not we're an asshole in a certain situation.
Yep.
And that's why I think that there's been such a draw for stories like these.
I noticed when going through them as well that some of them seem to be a little bit more, not venting, but for lack of a better word, you could tell they already didn't feel like they were the a-hole, but were like, please tell me if I am. And then others were really honestly feeling confused and turning towards a community of people who aren't invested in any relationships for the people involved and really looking for that answer.
Yeah, I feel like there were a few that I encountered while I was searching for which one I wanted to bring to the episode. And you could tell that they felt vindicated when everyone said, "You're not the asshole." They sort of already had the inkling that they weren't, but they needed that reassurance from a third party independent perspective.
Yeah, these people just want to tell their story because sometimes also they were like in pretty much disbelief that maybe somebody in their life that made them start feeling like they were the asshole was thinking they were being an asshole for it. And they're like, wait, I'm so confused. Like, I didn't even think for a second what I did was possibly wrong. And now my husband or my boyfriend or my best friend is telling me that I'm wrong, and I'm so confused. So there was a couple of different types of entries, if you
Or
will.
even encounters with strangers, which leads me into my first one.
Ooh, let's hear it.
Without further ado, this one is titled, Am I the Asshole for Getting a Woman with Allergies Kicked Off a Plane? And I feel like we're just going to dive in, but I do really relate to this as someone with severe allergies that usually puts a little disclaimer when I'm booking a flight. So it says, I have a diabetic alert dog and recently booked a plane ticket. At the boarding gate, a woman saw my dog and asked if I was on the same flight as her. When I said yes, she told a staff member she had a life-threatening allergy. So the staff member took us aside. She seemed really exasperated and said she put her allergy on the booking form and wasn't told I was going to be on the plane. The staff member asked if she would be okay if we were seated on opposite ends of the plane, and she said no. Apparently, her allergies were so severe, it still wouldn't be safe for her, and my golden retriever is one of the worst dogs for allergies. Then she asked if she would be okay being rebooked to a later flight, and she said no. She really needed to be on the plane and started tearing up. The staff member then asked me if I was okay with being rebooked, and I refused, as a delay would have been a serious annoyance. So she told the woman that I took priority and she had to be rebooked on a later flight, which made her start crying. The man I assume was her husband, boyfriend, said that she suffered a lot for her allergies and I had no more right to be on the plane than her, which made the staff member escort them away. However, the law is clear that service dogs should be accommodated on flights. Am I the asshole? I have a lot of thoughts on this.
So many thoughts. I have a lot of environmental allergies, have since I was little, living in California. That's very common to have allergies. And I do agree with that the person with the, let's say, we're going to use disability and the need for a service dog taking precedence, though. Because while it sucks for the person who is allergic and that if it's life-threatening, then absolutely they need to be accommodated as well. But being offered to be moved or to a different flight, that is being accommodated as long as it's at no other cost. If you're getting charged because of that, then there's an issue. But the person who has a service dog has a right to have that dog, especially with health alert service dogs like that. There is no way around them having that dog on the plane, and it is extremely important. I think we have a culture where people are like rolling their eyes at service dogs these days. And I think that's really sad because there are a lot of laws that protect that. And it's important that these people have these dogs because it saves their lives. We have a longer life expectancy than 200 years ago for a reason, right? Because we have things like this. So unfortunately, for the person with the severe allergies, they were not alerted. And that is rough. I think the airline dropped the ball there.
I was going to say, I think in this situation, the person with the diabetic alert dog and the person with allergies, neither of them are the asshole. I think the airline is the one who is the asshole. They're the ones who should have really looked into who was booking and what alerts they put it in their booking information. Because that is something I have to consider when, booking a flight. I put what I'm allergic to, which is a very common top 10 allergen, and it is life-threatening. And if you are in a tin can, basically for even an hour, having that smell in the air could start an anaphylactic reaction, and you don't want that. But at the same time, I do have people in my life who have diabetic alert dogs, and I understand that it is a necessity. A great deal of training, a great deal of trust goes into these dogs to save and keep these people safe. So I really don't believe either of them were in the wrong. I believe it probably was a very high stress situation because both of their medical conditions would be at risk if one or both were, you know what I mean? Like, the woman can't board the flight and leave her dog. This dog is with her 24/7. And that's one of the things you realize when you go through diabetic alert dog training. You literally go through training with these dogs. You have to be comfortable with them being at your feet, being at your side with you all the time. This is your constant companion. So she couldn't board that flight without her dog. And even if you didn't have an alert dog, why would you want to go somewhere without your dog? Leave them and be rebooked. And I don't blame the girl for being upset that once again, her allergies have caused her some extra stress and everything. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like the airline could have handled it a lot better.
They should have. And honestly, I can't really pick who should have been more willing to move to a different flight or something like that. I think it sucks on both ends. So I fully agree with you. The airline really dropped the ball here, but I understand also that's very difficult to manage. But like you said, you can put these things when you book. So it could have been caught and maybe handled better. I guess it's better than the fact that they were literally already on the airplane.
Right. Can you imagine if she would have gone into anaphylaxis while in midair?
Yeah.
So if it were me in this situation, I probably would have just been upset, but understanding that things happen. And I probably would have been the one to say, that's fine. I'd rather rebook, because in these situations, you don't want to have to use your EpiPen. You don't want to have to go to the hospital. That would cause an even more significant delay in this type of situation. Right. Just be safe. Sorry, it didn't work out. But it sucks to always have to be the one that says like, okay, I'll be the one to rebook. And maybe it was just a bad day for her. I don't know. But overall, all of it sounds horrible.
Like, that was not the best sound of whatever that was. Like with all things, they have to prioritize. So in this case, they're prioritizing the different health conditions and the different accommodations. Unfortunately, allergies just aren't top priority for accommodations typically, because they are so self-managed, which is good and bad, right? Like, cool, we have EpiPens, we have these things that are readily available that aren't a service dog that other people are allergic to, but also if your allergy is that severe, obviously that's like extreme discomfort, that's anxiety inducing, and you don't always know what's going to happen.
If she truly was that allergic, having a dog on there could cause her to die if she didn't get medical attention right away. So that's why I'm saying, like, maybe it would be best if obviously the airline now knows, all right, this is that severe. Mm-hmm. We're going to rebook her on a flight without dogs, without whatever she's allergic to. So maybe it would be the safest option for her.
Yeah. I've got to say though, I mean, I feel like it would be so rare to have that extreme of a dog allergy, where it's like life-threatening. I know that most like food allergies are life-threatening, but like I've never heard of like a dog allergy being life-threatening, but like any allergy, I guess, potentially could be, right? Doesn't matter.
My friend from grad school is deathly allergic to dog dander. He's also allergic to some of the things that I'm allergic to. So that was like our bonding moment. Yeah. But he actually does have a hairless dog. I forget what they're called, but they're a specific breed from Mexico. So he's able to have a dog, but it's just the fur. And I remember a few times he had visited my house when we were in grad school, and it was always much safer for us to be outside because I have dogs.
Wow. Yeah. I have a friend who, for a partner, she has 3 cats, and for a partner, she had to get like this like really big air filter. I have an air filter in my house because of the environmental allergens, but a huge air filter, and the cats had like certain routines. Like the routine had to kind of like change where they were, because he was that allergic, like so severely allergic to cats. And I get it. I'm a little bit allergic to cats. Like my nose will get a little stuffy and things like that. But yeah, it's not comfortable. And like I said, though, unfortunately, accommodations wise, people with allergies are not accommodated as much as as somebody who is in need of a service animal, whatever those disabilities or conditions that warrant the service animal may be, they're not. And it's sad, but again, you have to someone's going to win and someone's going to lose in that particular instance.
You bring up a really good point too. I feel like severe allergies can be an invisible illness. Mm-hmm. And I've encountered that where like I literally can't have certain things or I could die, and I have gone to the emergency room. My brother and sister did fight over who gave me the EpiPen. One time I had to use it. My sister won. But it is interesting going places and even restaurants nowadays. Mm-hmm. So many people say they have allergies when it's really a preference.
Yeah.
And so there are a lot of restaurants that don't take things seriously. And I think I told you maybe once, I believe I told you this story. I'm not going to say what my allergy is because I don't think it's safe for people to know what I'm allergic to.
You cannot
in the public, but
in this world, I don't blame you, even though I know what it and they are. But yeah.
Well, I went to this restaurant, and this is why I believe like I probably should keep it secret now.
Mm-hmm.
I went to a restaurant with a colleague, and I ordered a tortilla soup. And I told the server, I know it doesn't have what I'm allergic to, but I just like to let all the server and kitchen people know what I'm allergic to just to be safe. So there's no cross-contamination. This is life-threatening, blah, blah, blah. I get the soup. I'm eating the soup. We're talking, me and my friend, and I bite into something, spit it out. It is literally what I'm allergic to. There was no reason for it to be in the soup. It was super random, and it almost felt intentional. And after that, I was like, okay, so there are weirdos out there that would possibly do something, or just to see if someone truly is allergic. I don't know how it ended up in there, but people are weird about food allergies nowadays.
I can confirm, being somebody who loves to cook, that soup had no business having any of the allergens I know of yours in it. And we have a true crime podcast. We know people are weird. Like you said, people are weird about food allergies these days. I would argue people have always been kind of like weird and pushing boundaries, and it's gross.
Well, if they're either in disbelief of them, they're either unwilling to believe that they're actually that serious, or they want to tempt fate and see what happens.
That's what I'm saying. Like, people are weird.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it just takes being raised by another weird person where your brain chemistry's off and you become weird and start putting allergens in people's soup that don't belong there. So again, can confirm shouldn't have been there, and can confirm we've seen even worse happen, because having a true crime podcast, we've seen people even capable of even more gruesome things, not trivializing that it's awful that somebody may have most likely done that to you. That's awful. I can also confirm, as somebody who likes to cook, that there was no business any of the allergens I'm aware of being in that soup. Not a single one. So it's awful. And you're right. People are weird. All it takes is like one weird person raising another one for them to be like tempting fate like that. I'm like, haha, let me see what happens. It's weird because we wouldn't do that.
Super weird.
They're out there. They're out there.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. I don't know if you knew this, but anyone can get the same premium wireless for $15 a month plan that I've been enjoying. It's not just for celebrities. So do like I did and have one of your assistants switch you to Mint Mobile today. I'm told it's super easy to do at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
This episode is brought to you by Temptations Cat Treats. Your cat will come running for the perfectly irresistible Temptations Creamy Puree and Temptations Lickable Spoon Cat Treats. The best time to feed lickable cat treats to your cat is anytime. Feed by hand for a playful moment, in a bowl for a creamy treat, or as a topper to make mealtime fun. Visit temptationstreats.com to learn more.
Uh-oh. The last cookie.
You can get a new box of cookies in as fast as an hour with Walmart Express Delivery.
Are you my guilty self-conscience?
No, I'm the voice offering you promo code EXPRESS for free delivery on your first order.
Hey, who ate my cookies?
You mean, these cookies?
Order now. Welcome to your Walmart. Promotion valid for first express delivery order. $50 minimum subject to availability. Restrictions apply.
Spring is here, and you can now get almost anything you need for your sunny days delivered with Uber Eats. What do we mean by almost? Well, you can't get a well-groomed lawn delivered, but you can get a chicken parmesan delivered. A cabana? That's a no. But a banana? That's a yes. A nice tan? Sorry, nope. But a box fan? Happily, yes. A day of sunshine? No. A box of fine wines? Yes. Uber Eats can definitely get you that. Get almost anything delivered with Uber Eats. Order now. Alcohol in select markets. Product availability may vary by region. See app for details.
Sergeant and Mr. Smith, you're gonna love this house.
Bunk beds in a closet?
There's no field manual for finding the right home. But when you do, USAA Homeowners Insurance can help protect it the right way. Restrictions apply.
Another awful thing we do to each other as people is bully each other. So my Am I the Asshole is asking if they are an asshole for not accepting an apology from their former high school bully. The girl who has bullied me in high school reached out to me for the first time after more than 10 years, and after a bit of small talk texting, she basically said something like, "How are you doing? I would love to meet up sometime soon to talk about what happened in school over a coffee. I'm expecting my first child, and that makes me reflect on who I've been in the past and who I want to be as a person and a mother. I've done terrible things to you and feel very sorry for it. I would like to apologize in person." Now back to the person who was bullied. "But I have no interest in meeting up. High school's been a bad chapter for me, but I've closed it up and fully moved on. A talk would be great for her to lighten the burden of a bad conscience. And for me, it would only open up old wounds. So what I've answered her is the following, literally word for word. I'm sorry, but I'll be completely honest. I don't want to talk about high school with you. It wouldn't do me any good. I understand that your conscience might be weighing heavily on you, but that is not my fault and not my responsibility. You want to talk to get it all off your chest and feel less guilty, but what's in it for me? My 13-year-old self could have used an apology and some reconciliation, but me now, it's useless. I'm not holding grudges against you, and I don't mean any harm, but I'm also not going to lie and say that you are forgiven. You just simply don't matter anymore to me, and I'd like to keep it that way. Congratulations to your pregnancy and all best wishes for your daughter. I fully support you reflecting and bettering yourself for her, but I can't help you with this. Maybe the most honest lesson to teach her would be that some things can't be made right again, and sometimes an apology just comes too late. Maybe you can teach her to never let it get this far. All the best," with an exclamation point. I've discussed this with my boyfriend, and although he understands my reasoning and supports my decision, he believes letting her talk to me would have been the most morally right thing to do. I don't regret it and won't change my mind, but I'm curious what other people think. And morally right thing to do, by the way, is in quotes. So I'm assuming he actually said that to her. My take is that she has a right to choose. If this came from a vindictive place, like wanting to sock it back to them, then that's not the best place to come from. But I truly believe from what I'm hearing here that this person was just protecting their peace and they didn't feel safe with this person, rightfully so, from what happened over a decade ago.
I don't think either are the asshole in this situation as well. I think, like you said, she does have a right to protect her peace.
Mm-hmm.
She probably did more than most people would by even responding and allowing her former bully to text her. So the fact that they were having a conversation over text is, to me, evidence of her being the bigger person and even allowing that open line of communication with someone who tormented her. I think a written apology is more than enough in this situation. They haven't had contact. They haven't been friends for, I'm assuming, a decade at least. There really is no reason for them to meet up in person. Everything that the former bully could say to her, she said to her in the apology via text. So for this situation, it's probably best that they end things right there. And she sounded really level-headed and understanding and collected in the message she wrote.
Oh, she seemed very decisive. I agree. She seemed like she had no issue coming up with how she felt about it and what she felt was best for her. The way that the former bully approached, at no shock to me, seemed very centered around them and what's going on for them. I want to be better. Yeah, I want to be better for the pregnancy and for my daughter. And well, of course, in their heart of hearts, they were probably like, yeah, I feel bad what I did to this person and I want to make them feel better about it. That's there. But to center it around you in the front, that
she was seeking absolution in order to feel better about herself.
Right. It didn't come from a place of, I've been thinking about you for 10 years and I feel so awful about what I did and I'm bettering myself, because it's okay to center that and be, put your stake in it. I'm bettering myself and I have not stopped thinking about you. I would love to extend an apology. I would love to meet up. If this is the only way I can apologize, then I'd like to extend my first set of apologies right here. What I did was awful and I'm truly sorry. And thank you for hearing me out, even if this text doesn't receive a response. Something like that. I mean, she should have consulted me first is what I think, but I don't know her. So
honestly, the bully could have sent the apology as the initial text and left it at that.
Yep. I'm so sorry. And now 10 years later, I would love to buy you a coffee for whatever it's worth. Like, yeah, that would have been great. I think you're right. And it would have been less centered around her.
Do you feel there's like a tinge of manipulation in her explaining, I'm pregnant now. I've come to the realization as my daughter's about to be born that it wasn't right. Like, would she not have apologized if she had never gotten pregnant?
Right.
If she had never had a daughter on the way?
I especially wonder if it wasn't a girl, right? That you're about to bring into this world and you want what's best for them. And you realize that there are people like you were that do awful things to people like that. Part of me thinks and hopes that she would come to that feeling. It might not been as hard and fast getting there. I think with age brings childbearing years. So there's like a correlation there of a lot of things in terms of brain development, as well as the things that having a child is going to bring to you, both brain development wise and chemistry wise, and just I'm bringing somebody into the world like we were just talking about. So maybe she would have gotten there, but yeah, not as hard and fast.
And we did sort of touch on that conversation when we discussed Chapel Roan's comments on her friends and motherhood. And we talked about how entering motherhood, whether that's during the pregnancy or after giving birth, it is sort of a rebirth for the mother as well. And maybe she truly is experiencing renewed sense of understanding of what her actions did in the past. But at the same time, the person she bullied isn't obligated to forgive her.
Right.
Or isn't obligated to console her in her past actions.
Correct. Absolutely. They can gain peace without some big coffee date that likely might end at 1. And what does that serve as well?
That's another thing I was wondering too. Mm-hmm. So you're going to go to coffee. It's going to be extremely uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. You're going to apologize. And then what happens after the 5 minutes are done? If it even takes 5 minutes to apologize, are we just going to sit there? What would happen? Right. Like, what was this woman expecting, to become best friends?
Right. And let's be real, probably not. Right. So it would have just been like you taking the time to get what you need.
Yeah.
And you think in intentions that you are being good to this other person and making better, but you're really not. And I think that this writer does a beautiful way of showing that. I also would like to extend grace to the bully and anybody who did something really stupid when they were younger to continue to do better now and let stupid decisions go. Can you imagine if we wore every horrible decision that we have made on our chests? I think we always, in every stage of life, probably try to do what we think is the best. And when you're a teenager, that thought process and what makes you, what's the word, vet what's best or not, it's a different process. You use peer pressure, whereas when you're an adult, you don't use peer pressure to decide what to do and what not to do. So what happens with peer pressure? You want to look cool. What looks cool when you're a teenager is kind of being sassy and like harder than everybody else a lot of times. And so I would extend a little bit of grace there too, because it sounds like they were very young. Doesn't mean the actions were right. I'm just saying grace to now. If you're being a better person now, then the conversation with your daughter can be, hey, I was an asshole when I was younger, and this is what I did to people, and we don't do that in this house anymore. And you want to know how I learned it? Because of whatever that experience was, and have those conversations as they enter, 11, 12, 13 years old. That's how you do it. I think that's a
beautiful perspective. And you're right. I think that's a beautiful perspective that you're bringing up. Obviously, everyone deserves grace for something that they did when they were, not fully mentally developed. And she obviously is showing some remorse. So I think in this situation, they're probably both best apologizing, accepting the apology, and never coming together and meeting in person.
Exactly. That text would have been so much better if she
Sufficient.
wasn't trying to meet and she stayed shorter and didn't talk about herself. So I guess a lesson here before we move on to our next one is that when you are trying to extend an apology to somebody else, don't center it around yourself. You just need to center it around that what you did was awful and that you are sorry. And if there's something to do to make it up, you know how to apologize. Just don't center it around yourself. The only thing you should center around yourself is if you're letting somebody else know how something they did made you feel, because you don't always know how they feel. So there's that lesson right there, I think, folks.
All right. For my second, am I the asshole? This one can be sort of controversial in relationships. So I thought it would be a good one to bring up. So the title is, My Husband Got Me a Vacuum for My 50th. The body of the story says, title says it all. Turned 50 yesterday. Husband, a 53-year-old male, woke me up, told me he had a surprise for me downstairs. I go downstairs and see a vacuum. Not even wrapped, mind you. He said he thought I'd like a new one since the current one doesn't have the ability to turn off the brush roller when using on hard floors. I never asked for a new one. It works fine. That was my birthday. Not even a lunch or dinner out. He mentioned a month ago about doing something special and going on a trip. I asked about that, and he said he'd figure I'd tell him when and where I wanted to go. He never asked where, but did mention several times over the past month he had a surprise for me. Apparently, it was the fucking vacuum. We've been married 17 years. Am I the asshole for hoping or expecting that maybe he could have planned or surprised me with something more than an Amazon next day delivery vacuum? When he turned 50, I took him to Hawaii. Maybe I'm just being hypersensitive. Turning 50 has been a hard number for me. Parents and grandparents all passed in that decade. Then she put an edit and said, it's a Eureka Power Speed canister vacuum. I'm assuming that people wanted to know what exact kind of vacuum it was. Details matter in stories.
So I'm looking up how much that costs. Eureka
Power Speed.
Power. Yeah. How to use Eureka Power Speed. I'm just curious if I can see quickly how much it might cost.
I mean, vacuums are expensive.
Yeah, vacuums. Okay. This one's $100. I obviously don't know the exact model she has, but one of them is like $100. So, I mean, that's not that cheap for a lot of families. My initial thoughts, I always see both sides of the coins because of my training with counseling and psychology. I have been trained that I have to do that for my job, right? I need to be able to disagree with students, but also meet their needs if that's the need they want, even if I wouldn't do that as myself. Anyways, with the husband, is it great that he acknowledged the birthday? Yes. At all. Sure. And it seems like she truly is thankful and recognized that. She mentioned a few times, this was for my birthday. That was all my birthday had, though. She set an example for him that was different. They went to Hawaii. Did he ask for that? Would he have been okay without that? We can answer that for him. So sometimes we have to think about meeting people where they are. Like, my husband does not need hubbub at all for his birthday. Did he like his 30th birthday party that I planned? And I planned it because in my family, for big birthdays, we do parties. And then for smaller birthdays, maybe dinners. We might not even see each other all at one time, but we try to celebrate each other, but it's a lot smaller. Doesn't need to be as big of a deal as like every 5 years, right? So I think he wouldn't have been hurt, though, had I not planned one at all. So when I think about that, and that was obviously years ago now, but when I think about that, we have to remember that sometimes we give the way that we want to be given to. And so that's a lesson here too for everybody listening. When someone's giving to you, kind of take note. Like, oh, do they invite me out to lunch and a movie every year for my birthday to celebrate me? Because that's probably what they like too then. Do they
be reciprocal?
Right. Do they like to go on a weekend away? Right. Is my partner's whisking me away on a weekend away every year for our birthdays? And be real with what you like, though. Like, hey, you know what? I really don't want to go away this year, or I would like to go away this year, which it sounds like she said but maybe it wasn't heard or retained or remembered. And I do think there was weaponized incompetence here of, you never told me where.
Right. And it's your wife of 17 years. Shouldn't you have some inkling of what she would like?
Right. And
or have the communication skills to ask her what she would like.
Ask, like, hey, where are you thinking? Like, how big of a trip are you wanting to do? Because I'm pretty sure my husband, that might not be the greatest at that stuff, would ask, well, like, where? Like, how big of a trip are you trying to do? And I do know that he is aware that I have a running list. This is going to be no shock to Natalie, who I think you knew from when I created it, but you may or may not remember. I have a running list of trips with like light itineraries of the things that I would want to do on those trips. I have like a little, like, well, it's not so little.
Like a bucket list.
It's kind of like a bucket list trip list, because I hate that physical act of traveling, but I love being somewhere else. And so I'm not getting through it very quickly, and I might not get through all these trips in my lifetime. And if I've learned from anybody who is of an older age that, you know, there is a lot more to life and, you know, a lot more important things too, but you can sure try, and definitely don't miss out on the opportunities.
It's important to have things to look forward to. And it sounds like that's what you've done with this sort of list. If we were to go back and look at what she said, though, I have to wonder, and I'm not on the husband's side necessarily, because it's different if you gift somebody something practical because they wanted it or could use it. I'm specifically thinking of me gifting Tim a stand mixer. He was really into his starter. He wanted to bake bread. He was doing a lot in the kitchen, and it was extremely difficult to do it without a stand mixer. It just made things more efficient and more enjoyable. And so he really wanted one, but they're expensive. They're multiple $100s. And couples aren't always in the place to just drop a random stack of hundreds of dollars.
$400, $500, $600 when you're talking stand mixer. Yeah. So maybe even $800 for a big dog one.
Right. He got a fancy one. So, you know, when I got it, I surprised him with it. And he was truly excited to have it because it was something he was looking forward to.
Right.
Now, if I had just bought it because we needed it and I needed a gift for him as well, that would be different. And it sounds like in this situation, he realized maybe they could do with a better vacuum. And her birthday happened to be around the same time they needed a better vacuum. So he 2 birds, 1 stoned it.
Yeah.
That's different.
Can I do not want to overcorrect, but I heard scone instead of stone.
Yeah, that's correct. So,
is it scone?
The original saying is 2 birds, 1 stone. But then PETA came out about maybe a decade and a half ago and said that was too violent. And so why don't we say 2 birds, 1 scone? So you can feed 2 birds with 1 scone. And ever since we heard that, we just, Tim and I always say 2 birds, 1 scone because we think it's so cute.
That's cute. I like that. Thanks for sharing that, because I always feel a little bit rough if I say 2 birds, 1 stone, but it's such a good way to describe something. So I like the scone. You can feed 2 birds with it.
And like scones are fun and tasty, and who wouldn't want a scone?
Exactly.
So that's what we say.
But regardless, I am with you. The husband was probably doing that, which I don't think truly is that appropriate. I think
it's not appropriate.
No, I think that's cool for like a random weekend of like, hey, look downstairs, you know, look what just got delivered.
Or I got us a surprise. He didn't even frame it that way of, this is a household item that both of us would use. Look what I got us. That's different. Instead of her 50th birthday where she wanted to go on a trip, she took him on a trip.
Hilton brings you new ways to stay. With experiences that let you capture the glory days. Introducing the Graduate Hotels. Each inspired by local college towns, these stays are always original and never boring. Get in touch with traditions all across the country and enjoy a stay that's a class above the rest. Book at Graduate Hotels with Hilton Honors Points at Hilton.com. It's a win-win. Hilton, for the stay.
This episode is brought to you by the Nissan Armada Pro 4X. With a twin-turbo V6 engine ready to propel your adventures, up to 8,500 pounds of towing capacity to haul all your favorite toys and space for 8 passengers, Nissan's most powerful car yet will chew up and spit out anything you throw at it. Learn more about the all-new 2025 Nissan Armada at nissanusa.com. Towing capacity varies by configuration. See Nissan Towing Guide and Owner's Manual for additional information. Always secure cargo.
Some things work better together, like NARS's Soft Matte Complete Concealer and Radiant Creamy Concealer. Soft Matte Complete Concealer erases and blurs imperfections with full coverage. Then, Radiant Creamy Concealer evens and brightens with a luxurious texture and radiant finish. 2 concealers, 1 flawless look. Perfect for a no-foundation base. NARS, better together. Visit Ulta to shop now.
Are you still quoting 30-year-old movies? Have you said cool beans in the past 90 days? Do you think Discover isn't widely accepted? If this sounds like you, you're stuck in the past. Discover is accepted at 99% of places that take credit cards nationwide. And every time you make a purchase with your card, you automatically earn cash back. Welcome to the now. It pays to Discover. Learn more at discover.com/credit card, based on the February 2024 Nielsen report.
Hey, it's Bill Simmons from the Bill Simmons Podcast. The NBA playoffs are here, and Michelob Ultra is getting you closer to the game than ever with courtside seats and more. Enter now at michelobultra.com/courtside. Michelob Ultra Superior Access Courtside 2024 to 2025 sweepstakes. No purchase necessary. Open to U.S. residents 21 or older. Ends on July 1st, 2025. Multiple entry periods. Visit michelobultra.com/superior access/courtside for free entry deadlines and official rules. Message and data rates may apply. Void where prohibited.
Another thing that when you were speaking, I wanted to bring up, you said that your training has allowed you to look at both sides of things. And that made me wonder, when she took him to Hawaii, obviously you had mentioned, did he even want to go?
Right.
But another thing to consider is she also got to enjoy that vacation. Even if it was for his birthday, she was along for the ride and got to enjoy the scenery and the trip in all of its glory. So it could have been looked at as a gift for both of them. And we don't know their financial situation from when he turned 50 versus when she turned 50. It looks like they're 3 years apart. So things could have been very different. I'm not giving him a pass, but I'm just saying there's a lot of details that we don't have that could possibly help inform more of a appropriate response to this.
That she may not be looking at as well. Again, with my husband's 30th that I took a lot of care in planning, I'm pretty sure he probably would have been fine meeting up with friends at like a brewery or whatever.
That's so him, by the way.
Yeah. But because, I was planning, and I think that I just felt like 30th needs like an actual party kind of thing, Not that you can do like a big group meetup party, but like at restaurants, you're limited, yada, yada. So I wanted to do it, at my in-laws in their backyard on a beautiful day. He's a spring baby. And so for me, right, though, I was kind of taking over the theme and what we were going to eat there and all these things. Not that I didn't ask his approval on things, but like it did get to a point where, right, like I was handling these things because it's his birthday and I'm doing this for him. So it could have been that of like, oh, we have always talked about going to Hawaii. Why don't we do that for his 50th? And then I'm going to kind of take the reins. So I think she might not be totally looking at that as well. But it does not negate that the vacuum was not the right gift, period.
Right. I think reading this makes me believe that it really comes down to breakdown in communication. If they both expressed themselves and communicated like a married couple, then maybe they would have avoided this situation altogether.
Yeah. I think that maybe some counseling of some sort and getting some communication tools back in the, what do we want to call it? The tool belt would be important. And listen, this is a good lesson that I'm thinking of already right now is like, maybe throughout the years of marriage, you and I have been married for quite a while now, but maybe there are a lot of relationships where some of those tools don't get sharpened And that's a good lesson to remember to sharpen those tools throughout, because you go so long without maybe needing them or something like that, or using them and using them and using them, and you don't always sharpen them and make sure that like everybody is comfortable with the way that tool's working and all that stuff. And I mean, listen, we wouldn't have like a 50% divorce rate if that maybe was happening. And there's a lot of reasons people get divorced, and a lot of times it's the right decision for people too, in my view. But yeah, so that's a good lesson. I think that I'm gonna remember that. Sharpen those tools.
It's a good lesson for all of us.
The next one that I have involves actually being married, because it's talking about in-laws.
Perfect segue.
Am I the asshole for saying my mother-in-law can't stop by the house she bought us? Must be nice, right?
Right.
And I mean nice to have a house purchased, not to tell your mother-in-law they can't come over. My mother-in-law bought my husband, 29 male, and myself, 29 female, a house across the street from hers. Literally across the street. Okay, I know this isn't for everybody, but like dream for me. I love being close to family.
I have a lot to say about this already, by the way.
Absolutely. Our first home, already nearby, had severe flooding issues. When the new, much nicer house went on the market, my mother-in-law offered to buy it for us. Side note, my mother-in-law was well off, but unexpectedly came into a lot of money 8 years ago. She has the habit of overspending on her children, like any mother would, I'm sure. My husband's extremely comfortable accepting her generosity, but it's hard for me. He said no. She's referring to the offer to buy the house initially, and moved on. Shortly after, we had the worst flood we had seen, and it was now a constant stress, and we were really struggling with it. I caved and asked if she was serious about buying the house. He said yes and thought it was a nice house, so I asked him to set up a tour later that day. By 3 p.m. that same day, without involving me at all, in caps, my mother-in-law had made a cash offer on the house and we were under contract. I'm wildly independent and private and have never allowed anyone to make decisions for me, but the ups clearly outweighed the discomforts. But since this wasn't the first time she's pulled something like this, Hubs said he would talk to her about how we appreciated it, but she had crossed the line. Apparently, they did have some version of that talk, but it felt like she got away with agreeing she overstepped, but not acknowledging that it was not okay to behave that way. Side note number 2, my guy is honestly a bit of a mama's boy. I say that with love and respect, with hopes if I have a son that I'm lucky enough to have such a loving relationship with him. But it is what it is. He's protective of her, and with her various health issues, he always comes when she calls. But there's a level of constant communication that's foreign and frankly frustrating to me, who comes from a fairly cold family. I respect that his family is different from mine, and since I'm living surrounded by them, I'm the one to adjust. It felt wrong to be anything but grateful for the house, and I am grateful, but she's been stopping by and calling him more, and more recently came over with a stranger who was a stranger to her and her husband, but the parents, the in-laws, knew them, to tour my house unannounced. So she's bringing somebody that the couple doesn't know, but that they know, over to tour the house. And my guess is probably somebody in the neighborhood who was like, oh, that house went up for sale and what's going on with it? I get it. My husband, bless him, wants to be on my side and has actively pushed me multiple times since this behavior isn't new. But my mother-in-law can be quite loud and guilty when things don't go her way. He cares so much about her and it stresses when he's in the middle. So for his sake, I tend to back down because I know she'll make him feel like trash otherwise. I believe she has a good heart and means well, but she has her own issues and, in my opinion, is emotionally immature. Am I the asshole for drawing boundaries myself and telling her she's not allowed over unannounced to the house she purchased? Edit. The only names on the deed are mine and my husband's. So
that was one of the first questions I was going to ask. Whose names are on the deed?
I feel like we slightly missed a little bit of something. I'm not exactly sure, outside of that talk that he had with the mother-in-law, when the, hey, this is like not okay happened. I think she might be referring to that talk, perhaps, and is just using that example as a reinforcement of why she had her husband have that talk with her, with the mother-in-law, because I was a little bit lost on like when the like direct thing came. And maybe she's feeling like that too, of like, I'm trying to set these boundaries. Am I wrong for trying to do that? So far, my husband has had this particular conversation with her because outside of all these other things, this stranger coming to our house was a catalyst. And I agree. Like, I would be so mad if it was unannounced. Even if it was announced, I would already be annoyed. Like getting a text, hey, can I come by with so-and-so? I'd be like so annoyed. Unless I knew them. And even then it might still be annoying because I'm that type of person that it's like, I want like some notice to like feel like my house is what I'm comfortable with it being when somebody is coming over. And most of the time I keep it at a level where I probably would be comfortable, but like there are still the things on the table you're going to pick up or this or that, whatever it is.
What if you have your mail out with, bills or something?
Yeah.
It's or just like you want to be prepared. You want to have a say on who's entering your house.
Yeah. Or like I want to vacuum up the dog hair, and our couch before people come over. That's typically the one thing that we can't control very easily. So before anybody comes over, of course, we're vacuuming the couch because that's important. I mean, sometimes if it's like my mom's dropping by or something, I don't get that crazy. And she's always talking about the dog hair. Hi, Mom. But
well, I was going to say she'd probably be the one to pick up the vacuum while talking to you, visiting and vacuum up.
She has vacuumed my house in heels. She has vacuumed my house in heels. Love her. So she's very, very helpful. But yeah, especially if it's a stranger or like somebody I don't know that you're bringing over that's an acquaintance or that will now be an acquaintance through you because you know them, I'm going to want to vacuum the couch. I'm going to want to clean my guest bathroom, just like wipe it down at least. Like that's just who I am because that stuff embarrasses me. Even though it shouldn't be embarrassing to have a water speck on your mirror, that kind of stuff does embarrass me. It looks like I don't like the way that it looks. So thus, then it embarrasses me.
Well, your environment is a reflection of your mental state, of who you are as a person. And so it is very vulnerable to have people over when you're not expecting them, especially a stranger. And in this instance, I believe that the poster is not the asshole. I think that she's entitled to have boundaries, especially with someone that is going to be trying to drop by unannounced all the time. And one of the other questions I had when listening to this was, did the mother offer or did the mother-in-law offer to buy any house, or was it this house, the house across the street, and that was the only one she was willing to buy? And then another thing I have to bring up is in that sort of situation where if she had said, this is the house I'm willing to buy for you, there is no such thing as a gift without strings in that situation.
That's right. And you have to think of the intentions behind that. I'm not saying the mother-in-law is malicious or not, because obviously that is a very wonderful gift. And it comes with things like being in a neighborhood where your parents are that sounds like it's a pretty nice neighborhood and a pretty nice house. So that's going to come with the equity that builds, with the security that having a house builds and things like that. And obviously it's going to come with pros and cons. So there are going to be cons too, very clearly. But I'm with you. Like, is that the only house that you were going to be willing to help? Like, if we had a flood, if we had to go buy whatever house or a house that maybe worked for us for whatever other reasons we felt it worked for us better, would you have helped then, even with half of a down payment or anything like that, since you're clearly so willing to help? I kind of lean towards maybe not that it's like a no, but seems like there are strings though, because it seems very much clear why she would be excited. And hopefully in a very sweet way, to have her son and daughter-in-law across the street. And maybe it's something that she had at some point in her life and loved it and now wanted to give that to her son. Who knows? I also know, in judging that they are 29 years old, this person is probably a very early Gen X or later boomer. And I have noticed in that age group.
You're talking about the mother-in-law in this situation.
Yes. That the mother-in-law is in that age group. They are extremely social. And I've noticed when out at like parks with my dog, like I've seen, for example, like men in that age range, like a boomer to early Gen X, that are maybe walking alone. Who knows why? Maybe they have a partner, maybe they don't, but they're out alone. They will approach and talk at a very least, or I should say at the very least, they're going to wave and say hello. If not, stop to talk to us about our dog. That is who they are. That is how they meet. That is how they stay in touch.
You bring up such an essential trait to that generation or generations, because I do see a little bit of that in my mom and my parents.
Oh, yeah.
When I remodeled my house, we gutted the whole place. We did every single little corner of it. And it was really exciting for not only me, but for like my parents to be able to see. And my mom had a few friends that were considering remodeling, and they wanted to use the same kitchen guy that we had used, but they wanted to see his work. And so I would get a text or a call like, hey, can I bring so-and-so over to look at your kitchen? And it was not always at the best time, but usually I would say yes. And if I felt like I didn't want people over, I could tell her no, but it's because it's my mom. If it had been my mother-in-law, it probably would have been different, and I wouldn't have felt comfortable saying no. And in that situation, I would have had Tim tell her no, because at least in our relationship, if something needs to be said to my family, I'm the one that's speaking up. If something needs to be said to his family, he's the one speaking up, because I feel like it mitigates a lot of hurt feelings if it's the person talking to their source family.
I agree. I agree for so many reasons. And a main one to me being they understand that person as a person because they literally raised.
Right. And they know how to maybe address the situation
and that
more appropriately.
Yes. Yes. They understand that parent better or whatever.
Right. They understand them. They have a little bit more comfort in saying no and drawing a boundary. Whereas if it were my in-laws, I think that I would feel uncomfortable to say no. And so I would feel guilted into saying yes to something I didn't want to do.
Yeah.
And I always hate when that happens, not just with them, but, just like in general. So I feel like this saves a lot of uneasiness and unnecessary uneasiness. And I think hearing the story that you just read, they have a similar setup with how they address the families. She did have her husband talk to his mother. She didn't do it. She didn't burn that bridge of inadvertently saying something rude or hurtful to the mother-in-law. So it sounds like she's doing everything she can to make it work. It's just a little bit complicated and something that they're going to need to work out and figure out what those boundaries are.
Agreed. And I don't think that it is actually that harmful of a conversation to say. I mean, there was a period of time where my husband worked every other Sunday in our marriage. And on that other Sunday, our in-laws were wanting to have us over. And it was such a great time when we did that. And in the beginning, it was feasible. But it got to a point where we realized we weren't really getting a day off together. And we weren't being able to get things done that we wanted to do because we were preparing to go to their house the Sunday that he was off. So we just had a very real conversation on one of the Sundays and said, I don't think it's going to work in 2 weeks. It's not because we don't want to be here, but I had to have a talk with my husband and have that conversation because it pained me, honestly, because I loved doing it, but it was just too much. Well, it's driving somewhere, it's being there, it eats up the middle of the day. And it's like anything we want to get done in our yard or our house or all of the things that we want to do together, we couldn't do. And luckily that did change in terms of our circumstances as well. So it's like, it was never going to be able to be something that was always and forever, but it was a wonderful time. So it doesn't mean she doesn't like being around her mother-in-law, but she wants to be able to cruise around her house without a bra on and not have Joe from the neighborhood come look at, like you're saying, the brand new kitchen or whatever that day.
Amen to that. Right.
It would feel really rough constantly being on edge, wondering if they were going to be texting, hey, I'm coming over. So even if you do get like a 20-minute, I guess I'll use the word warning, but I don't have a better word, but like notice, I guess it's better of like, hey, I would love to come by. I've got XYZ I'd like to drop off for you. Can I come by in 20? Even that is still jarring because you're never going to feel like in your house fully settled that no one's coming over. And like, I can't tell you on a non-work day how peaceful that is, knowing that nobody is trying to come over and you're just chilling that day. We all need at least like 1 or 2 days like that a week if you
to
can
decompress. Yeah.
Yes.
Not have visitors. And I even think, is this around the time they moved in? Are there boxes everywhere? Is she not settled in her own space? So there's a lot of other factors that we don't know, but I think it's clear that she's not the asshole. I don't even think her mother-in-law is necessarily the asshole. I think it's just something that a conversation that's going to be needing to happen and a boundary that's going to be needing to be put in place.
I would love to know a little bit more about the mother-in-law and some intentions, but we don't have that info. So based on what we have, I'm with you. It's kind of what they usually say of like either everybody kind of sucks or not the asshole. It's one of those. And when voting for everybody sucks, it kind of means that everybody had a little bit of something wrong
Partial
in the
blame.
situation. Yeah. And I could see that. I could see that for this one, but honestly, I just think point blank, you're not wrong for setting boundaries of your own home. You're not. So you know what? Yeah, I'm going with you're not the asshole. I could literally do this all day with you. So we might have to do this again. I hope you all liked our Am I the Asshole special. Until next time, we'll see you on Thursday for our regular true crime episodes and next Monday for another Unscripted. Bye.